All right. Welcome to the Strong Side Podcast. My name's Mitchell Black, and I'm your host. And today we actually have our first repeat guest ever. I'm very excited about this. It's by popular demand, really. I mean, the people wanted it. The people said, you have to bring back Becky Brown. So we did Becky's Blunt Truths, which is kind of funny, probably like 10, 15 episodes ago. And here we go. Round 2. So today we have Becky's Blunt Truths, part 2 per se. We're going to do a little recap and then just kind of dive into some new topics here. But I'm trying to get, there you go. This is also filmed right now for those of you guys listening on the podcast. So film, do we have film anymore? I should say recorded.
Yeah, recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave somebody a DVD. They're like, I don't have a DVD.
What's the DVD?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't have a player. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay.
So what have you been up to since we hung out last? I mean, I see you every day in the gym, but I mean like on the podcast.
We've been, we had talked about before how Ron and I sat down together and made goals and plans for, for our future. And some of it was, fun things, bucket list, things like that. And some of it was, where do we intend to go from here? What after Ron retires? What after? And one, we've been working on a new business endeavor, like we've been buying a couple properties in Florida, and
specifically condos,
yes,
right? Yeah,
on the beach, yes, and fixing those, learning a lot through that, and starting to rent those out. The the rental processes and Verbo and Airbnb and things like that. We've enjoyed it. It's it can get stressful. We had a really bad client lately, so it was that was hard. That was not something I enjoyed at all.
You were the funny story about this. So you said Verbo, right? This is how little I know about that market, is that I just didn't know how to say the word, so I just spelled it. I don't know how many people do that.
Everybody did.
VRBO.
That's how it started. And as it went on, everybody just said Verbo. They just changed it to Verbo. So
they did that? Because I feel less stupid.
Did. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
perfect.
They did. It was started out VRBO. And so then I had to get with the lingo, if we're going to use it.
And then didn't you go on I forget if it was before or after the podcast, didn't you guys go on like that 2-week trip?
Yeah. Well, that was one of our bucket list trips. It had been something that I'd wanted to do. And we went to Ecuador and stayed a couple of days, went to the equator, did a couple of fun things there. And then we flew out to the Galapagos Islands and got on a yacht for 8 days and stayed there and yachted around the Galapagos Islands with 20-something people. It was cool. I have to say, it was cool. It was like one of those save your money and go on this vacation. There was 28 of us, and we had 18 crew members to just wait on the tenant foot.
Oh, wow.
So it was, it was a trip of a lifetime, really.
And when you're on this boat, was Greg LeMond on the boat?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll preface the story and you can finish it. But if you guys have ever heard of like LeMond bicycles or the LeMond race, Greg LeMond, huge cyclist. You don't even need to know anything about cycling. Think like, I'm trying to think of it. I don't know any other sports. I'm trying to think of another sports guy, like Deion Sanders or something. Like think of that for like football and stuff. That's Greg LeMond of bicycling.
He won the
Tour.
Yeah, Tour de France 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and his family were on the boat. Yeah.
But
well, he suffered from what I understand, a shotgun blast after he won the last time, and he has shotgun pellets in his body, so he has to be very careful with getting his blood pressure raised and things like that. So he had to pretty much retire, from biking. But he makes the bikes and things now. But people had heard that he was going to be on the boat. And when we got on the boat, they assumed it was Ron because he was the fittest guy on the boat. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they just kind of assumed it was him. I mean, a couple people would, ask, are you Greg? And we're like, no.
I'm Ron.
Yeah, I'm Ron. So I got a CrossFit or I got a strong side. But so I've, but it was fun. He was a nice guy. Nice guy.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, man. So that's kind of what you've been doing, traveling, doing the Verbo thing.
Yeah, the Verbo thing. Trying to see, what comes next. Where we're going next after Ron is no longer, tied to corporate world, and what we're going to do then. I mean, because I want to retire into something. Just don't retire and stop.
I heard they're just opening strong sides everywhere. I'm sure you can get in on that deal.
Yeah, probably no. The travel thing plays into there. If you'll let us off for a couple of weeks ago, like our next, we have 2 more trips that are in the works. We want to go to, I want to do a deep dive like safari in Africa. Not just I want to go like, in the Great Migration or something, where the water buffalo, zebra, everything is moving across, and be part of that. And then never thought I wanted to do this until I met a gal on the boat who had done it, and she loved it. They went to Antarctica.
I get what you're saying. It sounds odd.
It sounds odd, but you go in Antarctica summer.
So it's how cold is it in the summer?
It's still cold, but it's not brutal. Like you can kayak and
it's pretty brutal here at about 45. So I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well, she had on equipment, things like that, but she said it was amazing. So it's like a 21-day trip where you start out in the lower part of Peru, go around the southern part of South America, down to Antarctica, come back up and swing over to St. Georgia. It's an island out there, and I'd never heard about it before. But she said the wildlife and things were amazing. So I was like, okay, sign me up. Let's go.
I do want to, I want to go on one of those African safaris too. I want to watch a lion hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, just rip apart a wildebeest or something that's definitely a bucket list of mine. It's like that nature. That's nature. The squirrels ain't nature. Yeah. That's nature.
Yeah. I have a friend that, she was on a safari and they had the open air Jeeps, and she always chews spearmint gum, always. And they came across a herd of elephants, and there was a baby elephant. Well, a baby elephant's still big.
Yeah.
And, but it could smell her gum. And it comes over the Jeep. Well, the whole time mama elephant is watching. This is like, could be a precarious situation. And that elephant kept smelling her gum until he put his trunk on her face and just went all around that snotty little trunk around her face. And the guy kept saying, Miss Julie, don't move. Don't move, Miss Julie. That's mama.
Yeah. He's going to get mad.
So she just sat there. She said, I closed my eyes, kind of closed my mouth, and that trunk just all over the face. She was gagging. She was like, but it was fun. I mean,
I'll take an elephant over like a cheetah. I mean, that'd be way better if somebody's going to smell your gum.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I had another friend that went, and she stood on a bridge over a watering hole and watched like the crocodiles come up on the zebras, snatch them, things like that. That might make me a little apprehensive.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
man. So we wanted to kind of pick up off where we left, and I'll put a link below in the show notes for you guys to go listen to the first episode, but we want to kind of pick up where we left, and you had like a bunch of notes here.
I do.
So
well, you know what? We didn't get to the last point that I had to make, which was important. But before we do that, I want to back up. One of the things that I talked about that seemed to resonate with a lot of moms in here, because a lot of them, approached me about it, was how we talked about, you get in this cycle of, I'm going to school, maybe going to college, working, whatever. You find a husband, you start having kids, and you lose yourself somewhere in the middle of it because you are so overwhelmed and so busy trying to do your best for them that somewhere in all that, you lost your best for you. And I don't think it's any, different for dads. I don't know many dads that want to get up and schlep an hour and a half into Atlanta every day, sit in traffic and go to a job that they really don't like enough, that much, and come home. But they do it. And they do it out of love for their kids. They do it out of commitment, to their families. They do all that. But somewhere in the middle of it, they lose them. And it was really, teary-eyed people saying, I relate to that so much. I had read the quote from Alice in Wonderland about
I remember that.
Not remembering. There's another quote in Alice in Wonderland that I think is perfect for this situation.
Are you a big Alice in Wonderland fan?
You know what? There's a lot of good stuff in that movie, there is a lot of good stuff, and I'm not talking about the Disney version. I'm talking about the book, that kind of thing. But the Mad Hatter is talking to Alice, and Alice is shrunk, and he's trying to get her to challenge the Queen. And he looks at her, and he says, "You're different than you were before." He said, "You are much more muchier." M-U-C-H-I-E-R, muchier. He said, "You've lost your muchness." And so many people get so wrapped up in life and everything and what they're doing, they lose their muchness. The dreams that they had, the visions that they had of their future, the goals, all that stuff, they lose their muchness. And it's really a sad thing because people, I see so much promise and so much good things in a lot of people, but somewhere along the line they quit. They got into the everyday routine. They started, doing everything they kid, taking their kid to every sport, and they lose their muchness. You ever seen the rescue shows where the guy jumps out of helicopter over the ocean and because there's somebody drowning in there and he gets them, he's like the diver or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about. They rate they dive into a person, they got to get you, and they do a assessment of the person. And
while this is going on, in the water?
In the water.
Okay.
To assess their level of consciousness. How bad are they? Okay. That kind of thing. And they call it alert and oriented. And if you're doing great, you're alert and oriented times 4. That means you know everything, you know what's going on, you know what's happening, everything. But if you're not, the levels go down to where you're alert and oriented times 0. And that means that you're alive and breathing and you've lost your identity. And so many of us get through this life and we're alert and oriented times 0 because we've lost our identity. We didn't mean to. We just let so much go on. Whatever it is, taking care of our kids, you have a special needs child, you have your parents to take care of, you have a stressful job, and you lose the identity of yourself. And you're alert and oriented, but it's times 0. And most people, if you ask somebody, you would say, "I don't even know where it happened. I didn't mean to." And what I used to say to my kids all the time is, "You didn't mean not to." That was the most irritating thing. They would get so angry. They used it on me a couple weeks ago. I broke something or something. I go, "Oh man, I didn't mean to do that." And they looked at me and they go, "You didn't mean not to." I went, okay, I get it. Thank you. But what I meant by that was simple things like you're in the house, you're a kid, and you're throwing the ball. You've been told 100 times, "Don't throw the ball. You'll break something. Don't throw the ball." And you throw the ball and you hit something and you break it and you go, "I didn't mean to." And I would say, "But you didn't mean not to. You weren't intentional about your behavior. Ooh. You knew this. For people that have lost their identities, you're an adult. You didn't mean not to. That means you weren't deliberate. You weren't." And I'm not coming down on people. It's so easy to do. But what I'm saying is you've got to be more deliberate in your life. And that's where Rhonda had got to with the kids gone. And second half of our life, we talked about making goals. What are we going to do? What are you going to retire to? What are what are we going to do with this? We're going to be deliberate about this because I don't want to lose my muchness. I don't want to lose my identity, who I am, what I stand for, what I mean, those kind of things. I'm a believer. I go to church. I read my Bible. One of those short scriptures that apply to everybody is that without a vision, people perish.
100%.
100%. And you do it. Some people do it very slowly, but they perish. They don't have you hear about these people that retire to nothing and they die. That might be a little, oversimplified, but they die because they retire to nothing. So we need to have vision in our life. We need to make sure we keep our muchness. What is it about me that makes me me? And what do I want to hang on to? I want to have my identity. I don't want to be alert and oriented times 0. So from there, we talked about, making goals, setting down, that kind of thing. And one thing that we realized in our goals was that we had to be fit to accomplish our goals. If I want to go to Africa, if I want to run with the zebras or whatever, not run with them because everybody knows me, I hate to run. But if I want to be part of that, if in Galapagos, we would swim, we'd snorkel for hours a day with phenomenal snorkeling. Seals, sea lions, 30 in the water playing with you.
That's amazing.
It was, they would swim up to they wanted to look in your eyes. They would swim up to your goggles, up to your face, look in your eyes and almost laugh. And then they would swim off or swim under your feet or under your legs or under your arm, reach your hand out and they would lay their head on there. So these things that I wanted to do, we had to be fit to do it. So we, last time we talked about the reasons that people don't want to be fit or they don't come to the gym. And it was, things like cost too much. We talked about the price of nursing homes, of medicine, of medication that, could be preventable.
You said, what, 13 grand a month for your parents to be in a nursing home?
For my parents.
A month, 13 grand a month.
A month.
Some people don't even make 13 grand a month. Like, that's a lot.
It was a lot. I mean, to the point where, I had to be realistic about it. I had to be alert about it. I had to go, how much money do they have? How much money do I have? And how long can they live at this expense rate? Because that's a fact. I mean, nobody goes, I'm so sorry you're out of money. Let you live here for free. It didn't happen.
Yeah, that's very true.
It doesn't happen. So, whether you spend the money now or you spend it later, whether you want. So we talked about the cost of we talked about some people think they're too old to come in the gym to get fit. And the fact of the matter is in 2 years, you're going to be 2 years older. Now, all right, I watched an interview with a guy, old guy, okay? He was in his
40s?
Mid to late 90s.
Oh, 90. 90. I'm just kidding.
Come on, 40s is not old to me, Mitchell. But he was, and he runs marathons. And they said, how did you start? How long have you been running these marathons? He started at 90.
I remember us talking about that. Yeah, started at 90.
Yeah, he's like, how did you start running marathons at 90? And he said, well, I lived alone. And my son came over and said, Dad, I'm going to have to move you to a nursing home. You can't stay here by yourself any longer. He wasn't agile. He was a 90-year-old man that had been sitting for years. And he said, oh, son, I can run a mile. He said, good, get in the car. Put his dad in the car, drove out to the local track and said, run. And the guy said, I couldn't run more than 5 yards. I couldn't even run. I was walking 5 yards and I had to stop. And he said, I realized I had to make a change. At 90, you go at 90.
That's a mental shift.
Mental shift.
So let me ask you a question on that. What do you feel about, I talk to the coaches about this all the time. We all agree with it, that there's more to working out than just for the sake of working out. So a lot of times we get trapped in the gym of like, I'm going to go to the gym and only do gym things. So I'm going to come to the gym, like I'm going to come to StrongSide today, and I'm just going to work out. And then I might attend another class to work out. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you're seeing, the reason people are excited about it because they're with friends, they're getting better every time. But at some point, you're only working out for the sake of working out. Wouldn't it be so cool to work out, to be able to go acquire the ability to go do everything you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? My little grandson's 3. He's, 35, 37 pounds, whatever. He doesn't realize that as far as he's concerned, I'm his playmate. I mean, Gigi, we're in the pool. Throw me. 900 times later, I'm still throwing. I mean, but to me, to have that ability to do that, kids spell love, T-I-M-E, time. And when I can spend the time pitching him in the pool, throwing him, one of his favorite things is he jumps on my head. He thinks he's jumping. Of course, I'm lifting him. But and he jumps, sits on my head. And I'll squat down with him sitting up on my head, and he slides to my back, and we do it over and over and over again. I can do that because I'm here. I can move furniture in the condos we're buying because I'm here. It translates into stuff that I can do every day in my life. And I love it. I mean, I can go swim There was a lady, bless her, she was the sweetest lady. She was a sweetheart, but she was obese, and she was on the boat with us. And she had so much trouble to get on the boat, you had to ride a pango, which are those big rubber blow-up, rafts with a motor. To get on the pango to her was a huge accomplishment. And it took 5 guys when we went to the beach one day to get her off that beach into the panga. And she was going, oh, ho, 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 I'm like a beach swell. Well, she really was. It was, bless her heart, thank you. I mean, she had a wonderful sense of humor about it, but I want to be able to do those things. And this translates to real life to me. It allows me to do the things that I want to do. So that's why we're here. I mean, besides the fact I do love it. When you say it's barbell day, I'm like, oh,
let's go me.
Let's go me. Yeah, I mean, when you say it's running day, I'm like, oh God.
No, there is an element of fun, but it's like there needs to be more. Like, what's your more?
Yeah.
Your muchness.
My muchness. Yeah. My muchness. It's being able to take care of my own, to speak, to live in the world of my grandbabies, to do the stuff I want to do. And I can. There's nothing I don't think physically I can't do. I mean, within reason. So, and that came from being here. And so anyway, one of the other points that we talked about with why people don't show up at the gym is they're afraid of change. And the point that we made was, don't fear the change more than you fear the regret of not making the change. And if you're alert and oriented more than 0, maybe 2, 3, and you get down the road and you didn't make the changes you needed to be able to continue a functional lifestyle, that's regret. You would regret it more being in a wheelchair, not able to participate. That's regret. I don't think you're ever too old to be your best self. But the fear is real for some people. And the problem is, and this is the point I didn't get to last time, is our fear so many times is driven by we're afraid to face the truth. We lie to ourselves on a daily basis about things that we don't want to face. And let me tell you something. Liars don't heal. They don't heal physically. They don't heal emotionally. They don't heal spiritually. They don't heal mentally because you're lying to yourself. And if you keep lying to yourself, you never deal with real issues. Example, I hear people say this all the time. Well, my parents are both obese. I guess I got it in my genes. You might have it in your genes, Geans, but I don't know if necessarily you got it in your Genes. Maybe if you looked at the reality of the situation is what you learned from your parents was unhealthy eating habits. And now that you're an adult, you get to make the choice of the food that comes into your house. Stop lying about it and start being truthful to yourself and say, I have poor eating habits. Let me take charge of that as an adult. You have a choice. If you stop lying to yourself, lying is easy in the short run. You deal with things in the short run. Everybody's like this. We had a guy just at one of our condos say to us, well, you need to install plugs at either nightstand because, everybody has a CPAP machine. Everybody. I went, So just for giggles, I got on Google. How many people have a CPAP machine? I mean, because I didn't think everybody. I don't have one. You don't have one.
No.
Makes 2 of us. Yeah. Okay. 10%. But in his mind, because he was obese, he had slipped into the lie that he was in the majority. 10%. My husband's family, his mother and father, both obese. He had poor eating habits. And he was, working out here and not seeing the results he wanted. And he had to conquer the lie of the eating habits he had been taught and move on as an adult, make adult decisions, and eat the right way. And I brought something that people are going to go, no, come on, she's lost her mind, to show you the incredible deceit that we can play on ourselves, okay? I used to take mission teams to South America, to very poor areas. And as part of that, we would take supplies they needed, clothing, shoes, coats, whatever. And it got to where people knew that I was doing this. I mean, we did it for like 14 years straight in South America. And so people would save their clothes, save the kids' clothes, the coats and things they grew out of. And we had one of our tenants call Ron and say, that was tenants here in Georgia. We didn't have the places in Florida, but he said, hey, I got some clothes for you guys. Can you come by and pick them up? I said, sure. So he goes over there and brings home a paper bag of clothes. And I open up this bag. And this is what he had done. 3 pairs. This is what he had donated. Can you hold that?
Yeah, we're gonna need 2 people to hold it. And if you're listening to the podcast right now, like you can't see it on video, I mean that's got to be. She's holding up pants. What size are these? Do you have a size?
He weighed 700 pounds.
And this is no joke. I mean, these pants, they're literally you and I could fit in it and not touch.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Easy. And you're saying, come on, he could not have deluded himself.
Yeah.
But let's think about this. He gave me these pants to let other people wear. So he was living in that delusion that there's more people out there that need these pants, that are just like him, that he's not uncommon. He lived in that lie.
I got a client that he says it all the time. He says people are honest liars to themselves. And it took me a long time to like realize what that meant. But exactly what you're saying, like we justify to us what is okay, whether that's against the norm, like everybody does this, so it's cool, or we create reason, and I've gone through those struggles myself, like not only like whether it was weight. I mean, I know I talk about a weight loss story all the time, but like there was a time where I would like avoid difficult conversations because I wanted to lie to myself about, it's okay that this person's doing this because of, or I would avoid like opening hard emails, or like you start creating these things, or like I would not work out in the morning because I'm like, I'm not a morning worker outer. When the truth is, it don't matter if I'm a morning worker outer or not. I'm gonna have to become a morning worker outer because that's the only time that I got, and that's what I have to do. And like, yes, we can tend to honestly lie to ourselves because we believe that the quote unquote lie is the truth. Like we don't even think we're lying. We think this is true.
Yeah. But one thing about it, liars don't make changes.
Yes.
They don't make the important changes in their life because they've deluded themselves into believing that living a life of unawareness, without identity, without any muchness, is what everybody else is doing too. And I'm not saying in your life make changes like you take a look around. You don't you're stuck in this house. You have 4 kids. I'm not saying leave your husband. I'm not saying ditch your kids. I'm not saying put them up for adoption. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying look at your life and honestly wonder and focus and make the changes necessary in your life to make, not abandon your situation, to make the situation you're in the best possible that it could be. Lying to people, I've learned this over the years. When I have a situation with you, if we have a disagreement and you walk away upset with me, the first thing I do is I go, what part did I play in this? Is there something I said that could have been misconstrued? Is there something that I did that triggered an old emotion in you? I mean, what part did I play in it? And I try to rectify that. But a lot of times, what our behavior says more about who we are than about the other person. If we're angry, if we're mad, old triggers in the past, lies that we have taken into our heads and we live by. You know, you hear people go, my daddy never told me he loved me. And you took that lie in and said, I'm unlovable. That's not the truth. You were a child. Your father had issues. Let's rectify that lie so you can move on in your life and be the muchness that you're called to be. You know, other lies that are, that we allow, the key to our heads, and they run around up there and they take up residence. You know, your parents divorced and you live the rest of your life thinking you were responsible for that. Let's review this. You're a child. They're an adult. You are not responsible for that. Stop the madness in your head. Making a decision to tell the truth. The truth is you're not responsible. The truth, do you kind of get what I'm saying? I mean,
I get 100%.
We buy off on this stuff and we tuck it in, and everything else is compared to that in our heads. We compare everything else to the lie that we've allowed to reside there because of hurt and pain and disappointment and all those other things that have come into every one of our lives as we grew up. And some of the lies, have to do with our health. Most people are like this. This is the way it is. This is, you know, how it has to be. Or one thing that COVID, I'm gonna bring up COVID. I know everybody's sick of hearing it. I'm not talking about shots. I'm not talking about you wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear 4 masks. I don't care what you wear. Okay, I don't care. I haven't understood the part. COVID happened to us. Okay, but like 95% of the people that died from COVID had the comorbidities.
We did a show on that. Yeah.
We did it to ourselves. That part is something we did to ourselves. And nobody wants to take responsibility for it. Give me a shot. How about we look at what we've done to our own life and take a serious look and quit lying to ourselves and make the changes that we need in our life to improve it.
I think there is a big spin up in like awareness of mental health and mental fortitude and people being like, I need to take care of myself. I'm just hoping that everybody leans into that. Like if you go get your shot and that's cool for you, go get your shot. But like you need to continue to lean into, I need to be healthy, because that is like 100% true. I don't care if you're on the mass train or not on the mass train. The first thing we knew was that the sicker you were, the more likely you were to get sick.
Absolutely. The comorbidities, obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, type 2 diabetes.
And all of these things. So it's something like, so you take all the top 10 risk factors, 8 of the top 10 are metabolic, meaning that they're preventable. Yeah. And preventable within reason, but you get what I'm saying? Like if somebody's 40 and develop type 2 diabetes because they've been eating like Krispy Kreme, you know, like if you're excited that the hot sign's on at Krispy Kreme and every time you're going to get a dozen donuts and then you have type 2 diabetes, that's what I'm talking about. I think that's what we're talking like.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, you have to, you know, I read this the other day. It was Dr. Linda Lee. She is from Johns Hopkins Integrative and Digestive Center. She is the head of that. And she said, chronic health problems are so often due to lifestyle, and we don't have pills for your lifestyle. She said, we are talking about the way we live and the way we eat. And we want the pill. How about we take a hard, honest look at the way we're living and make the changes that we need. I was in a racetrack. This kills me. It took me weeks to get over this.
Weeks.
Weeks.
Can't wait to hear it.
I am a racetrack. And I come out of here, went to racetrack, stopped to get gas. This was like, it was cold. It was cold outside. It wasn't totally winter, but it
wasn't Antarctica.
It wasn't Antarctica. Yeah. That's right. But this, I go into the store. I was pumping gas. I thought I need something to drink. Went in there, got a bottle of water, and I went to go up to the checkout, and there was a guy standing there. You ever go to the checkout and you don't know? They're like, are you in line? Are you not in line? I mean, he was like 14 feet from the counter, and I know that because there was a green dot and a green dot, so that's 12.
That's the one good thing that COVID's done is stand in this line. I got it. Figured it out.
Okay, so he's kind of in the line, but he's like 14 feet from the counter, and I'm thinking maybe he's waiting on somebody. You know, I'm just not sure. So I said, excuse me, are you waiting in line? Oh, my gosh. I got close to him, right? I was a detriment at that point to his health as far as he was concerned. I got that close to, I dared. He was upset. He was an unhappy camper. I'm in line, and he's like, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Step back, got my 6 feet back there. And there was somebody checking out, and this guy was next, 14 feet away. And I was watching him. And when I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm pretty good at this. He weighed about 400 pounds. And cold. He had shorts on, stretchy shorts, big, huge T-shirt, flip-flops, big purple feet. And he has no mobility whatsoever. He goes to the penguin walk to the checkout. And I'm thinking, and you're worried about me? And he hoists 2 12-packs of soda on the counter. I said, I'll take 2 cartons of cigarette. I'm thinking, dude, you think COVID's going to kill you? Yeah. Back away from your purchase. Take a hard, good look at yourself. Let me buy you a bottle of water. Stop lying to yourself. Possibly, but I don't think COVID was your biggest threat at that point. Your own lies that's living in you. That this is okay. I have more time. I can do. This man with the pants, he died at 48. When he moved out of our house, we had hardwood floors, and where he sat on the sofa, his belly went over his lap and onto the floor and had worn a worn spot into hardwood floors that had to be refinished before the next people could come in from his gut.
Yeah. And
you're just going, can you take a look? But it's not just that. There's a story in the Bible about Jesus, and he comes across this guy at the Pool of Bethsaida, and he's been an invalid for 38 years, laying right there in that spot begging. Found him, bring him down every day, lay him there. He'd beg all day. That was his job. He begged. And Jesus goes, do you well? And the first time I heard that, I thought, oh, Jesus, have you lost your mind? What do you mean, do you want to be well? What a question is that? Do you want to be well? But then as I looked at it and thought about it, what he was saying is, are you willing to be honest enough with yourself to make the changes you're going to have to make to be well? I mean, the man was going to think about it. The man was going to lose his friends. 38 years, he'd been laying there with the same dudes begging. I mean, how you doing? No, well, not. Last night was rough. 38 years, change his friends, change his location, change his activities. If he could walk, he was going to have to get a job. He was going to have to help provide for his family in different ways. It was Sunday. If he walked around on Sunday with his mat, he was going to get put out of the temple because you couldn't do work on Sunday. It was going to cost him to get well. And it's going to cost all of us to get well. Listen, lying to yourself is easy. I can't do that because my daddy said, I'd never amount to anything. Yeah, I can't do that. But listen, when you start looking at the face on it, that crap gets hard.
Yeah, I think there's there's like I can relate to that so well because there's like this acceptance, or there's this like all the weight. I mean, like I've been really overweight, not 700 pounds, but I was 5'5" and 200. And I remember standing in the shower and looking down, I couldn't see my feet. And it definitely masked a lot. It's like an exposure. I'm not saying everybody's story, but definitely my story. It was a mask of like pain of I'm severely upset in these areas or whatever. And that's just how I dealt with it was food or whatever. But, as you like every story that you just shared and what you're talking about being an honest liar with yourself and stuff, there was a time. So me and my wife, we're coming up on 4 years being married, and there, right before we got married, I was having to have some really, really hard conversations with myself. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't go to therapy. I didn't go. I almost went because I was having some really, really hard conversations with myself about like my dad. So I haven't seen my dad in 20 years, and that's a very good thing. I know when people hear that, they're like, "No, you're hiding something." I'm like, "No, no, no. It was freaking terrible. Like I come from like cocaine, alcohol, cheating, abusiveness, just like, just mental put downs, like nothing like it terrible, the worst. I mean, I'm sure there's worse. I get it, but it was horrific, terrible. So in my head, I'm like, like that's going to be me, right? Like that's my genetics. Like that's what's going to go on. I'm going to be addicted to alcohol. I'm going to get into drugs. I'm going to be abusive. I'm going to cheat on my wife. I'm going to leave he left in the middle of the night. Haven't seen him in 20 years. Like, like never at any of the baseball games, never cared about any, like none of that, right? So I'm like, I can't have kids. I'm going to be terrible. I'm going to, and I'm like drowning in this, like, most people panic about getting married. I'm like, no, I'm set up for failure. I'm going to be this horrible human being because that's all I know. I don't know what it's like to have a good dad and then like the dad dies. That's terrible. I just don't know what it's like to have one. Like but I had to reach that point where I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I'm going to turn this. And then I just had to go, Mitchell, that's not you. Yeah. It doesn't matter what he was like. He's not you. Yeah. You got to be you. And that freaking allowed me to take a lot of ownership in that. Because I was, some people can mask it as weighing 700 pounds. You can mask it as whatever. For me, it was my own thoughts in my head. But we lie to ourselves about, like, I'm told that because some dude that you're related to did these things, that you're supposed to go do them. Yeah. If anything, I looked at him and I was like, oh, cool. That's what you're not supposed to do. Yeah. Got it. I'll just do the opposite of that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. When you don't face those fears and when you don't face the hard facts, the truths of your life, then you do tend to repeat a lot of the things that go on, and you can't get well when you lie. You just can't. I have a dear friend, a wonderful person, love her dearly, was sexually abused by her grandfather for years. And she could have done the same thing that her mother chose to do, which was hide it, cover it up. And she decided, I'm an adult. I'm going to make an adult decision. That was a little girl that had no control over the situation. I am adult. I'm going to deal with this situation. I'm not going to live in the shadow of that past. It is not my shame. It is not my blame. It is not my humiliation. None of those things belong to me. It was done to me. I'm an adult now, and I get to choose. Her grandfather died before, she became adult. Thank you, God. But she went to her cousins. She went to her sisters. She said, I was abused. Let me share my story. And every single one of them was abused too. And because she was willing to bring this into the light, they got healed. They got well. They abandoned the shame, the horror of their childhood, and moved on as an adult in their situation. And that's what truthfulness gives you. Let me be truthful. This is how I failed here. This is how I failed here. Let me be truthful in this. This is where we are not a sum total of the mistakes and the failures that we have made in our life and the things that's been done to us.
That's good.
We are not. We are, in my beliefs, we are made in the image of God. We are made in his image. We are not the sum total. We can overcome this. We just have to be real. We have to be real with ourselves. We have to face it and move on. I guess that's what we're talking about today. The truth, telling the truth to ourselves so we can get better. When we don't tell the truth, we betray our own self. That's what we do.
What happens if you tell yourself the truth?
It gets hard. Sometimes it just really gets hard.
Can you think of a time that you were lying to yourself or that you had to go through that and then you had to tell yourself the truth and you're like, this is going to be better, but it just sucks right now? There's been one thing rolling around my head.
That's hard. It's hard. It's still hard for me. Children, people tend to become what the most important person in their life says about them. When we look up to that person and they say different things to us, we tend to move in that direction. If your parents say you're lazy, or we either try to overcome it, or I'm trying to figure out a way not to tell this story, but it was hard. It was first boyfriend ever. I just was crazy. He became very important in my life. He was older than me. I have no idea what my parents had. Why, dear God, would you ever let your daughter go out with somebody that drives a car and you're 14? But anyway, he made a comment to me out of jest. One day, we were out on the lake on a boat with a bunch of kids. I have no idea why you let your kid on the lake with a boat, a bunch of kids. But anyway, and there was this one girl that lived over by his cabin. She was absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
What was she, like 15?
She was probably 16. She was probably his age. Maybe 17. She was probably a little bit older, but she was beautiful. I mean, this girl was like turned everybody's head, kind of pretty. And I looked at her and I said, "Who is that?" He goes, "Yeah, she's beautiful, isn't she?" He said, "Don't worry." He said, "Your body makes up for your face."
Where's that turd? Can we go beat him up?
Well, let me continue the story. Later on, from that moment, I took that I was ugly. I took that as the truth. It was a lie, but I took it as the truth in my own head. And that's how I behaved for the next 20 years of my life. I was ugly. It didn't matter what Ron said. Listen, I dated this boy later on, and he asked me to marry him. Now, most people don't ask ugly women to marry him, right? He was just being sarcastic. But I took his sarcasm as a truth, and I had the honor and pleasure of turning him down. Okay? No. So,
boom. Yeah.
Boom, mic drop. I'm out of here. So, but I had to, I had forgot about that moment. And it didn't matter what Ron said. It didn't matter. And later on, that memory came to life. And I had to deal. I had a choice. Continue to lie, continue to repeat that in my head, or I had a choice where I could deal with the lie and replace it with the truth that I was not ugly. Hard. That was hard. It was hard to replace that lie that I had lived for that long. It was a matter of telling myself over and over and over again. My husband just said, "Sweetie, you look gorgeous. You look gorgeous. You look gorgeous." My husband is not a liar. That was a lie. This is the truth. That was a lie. This is the truth. That was a lie. This is the truth. On and on and on again, to where now I can stand in front of the mirror and put on a pretty dress and do my hair and go, "Hey, I don't look that bad. I cleaned it pretty good." But it was a lie. And I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And there's the people that have bought the lies, and they let them take up resonance in their head, and they're living there. And I'm just saying, challenge them. Challenge the lies that you have let live there, and change them out to truths. Change them out to the truth. You can do this. You are more than your mistakes. You can be successful. Make it. You don't have to live your life at that time 0 with no identity. You have an identity. You're made to be somebody. Let's go get it. Make a plan. Talk to your spouse. Let's do it together, baby. We can make more. We can do more. We can be more. What lie are you living under? And that's pretty much the end of my story right there. I'm kind of flipping through here, to see what else that I wanted to say, but that is it. It honestly pains my heart when I see people that are living under these lies. Because in so many people, there's so much promise, and so much abilities, and so much things that they can accomplish, things that they can do, things that the way they feel about themselves. It actually gives me pain. With my own kids, I want to live your life that you speak the muchness into your kids, and don't let that die. I'm not talking about spoiling them. I'm not talking about giving them everything. I'm not talking about praising them at every moment. Listen, if your kid is struggling in math, don't say, "Oh, you're doing a great job, baby." That's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie. Say, "You know what? You're having a hard time right now, but we're going to work this out together because I know you can do this." You know, if they can't do it and you know they can't do it, you know, I mean, let's not lie to people, but let's speak the muchness. That's one thing I like about StrongSide. Good job. I'm only on the floor dying. I didn't feel like I did a good job, but man, you did a good job. You did it. It keeps you coming back when you know there's going to be somebody there that is going to pick you up, lift you up, and say, "Good job." I mean, when you used to high five us and you'd go, "Good job," I'm going, "He's lying." I mean, he's just lying. That wasn't true. For me, I was doing the best I could. I mean, I wasn't a baseball player. Wall balls were rough for me. When they hit me in the face, that was real.
Yeah.
I mean, but you would say, "Good job." And when you didn't compare us to other people. You know, "Yeah, you did that. That was really good." But you know what she did? No, I'm doing the best I can for myself. I'm doing the best weight I can for me. I'm doing and that's all you ask is do your good job. Do yours. You know, don't cheat on your reps. I mean, you know, do your good job for you and be the best you can be. Replace the lies that you can't do it with. I might not be able to do it now, but I'm working on it. I might have believed this in the past, but it's not the truth. Be an adult. That's what adulting is all about. If you and your kid are having problems, listen, there's one adult in the room, and it's you. Be the adult. You know, call out the muchness in them. Support them. Be the adult.
Boom.
That's it.
That is really, really great, man. Thank you so
No
much
problem.
for coming on. That was like, oh man, that was solid.
Thank you. That was, you know what, I mean, life can be hard. It can be really hard. It's hard when you have parents die or you have, you know, just life. There's so much life comes at you. I would want to call you up to a different level. You know, be alert times 4. It's doable. You can do it. You just have to be deliberate. Deliberateness, truthful deliberateness.
I love it. Be alert times 4.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, be alert times 4.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, thanks for coming on. And for those of you guys listening, if you could, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Music. I would really appreciate it. Share this with a podcast with a friend if this helped you out. And thanks for coming on. Let's rock and roll.